You're listening to Parasearch Radio, news, views and reviews from the world of the paranormal from across the UK and beyond. Find us on Facebook, Twitter and the World Wide Web. Parasearch UK Radio. Parasearch Radio, broadcasting to the UK and beyond.
The views and opinions expressed by presenters and guests are their own and do not necessarily reflect the official policy or position of Parasearch Radio or its affiliates and sponsors. Listener discretion is advised.
Hello, this is Richard Estep, ghostwriter, and from TV's Haunted Hospitals, Paranormal Investigators, Haunted Case Files, and Paranormal 911, and you are listening to PSH Radio on Parasearch Radio.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. We are back yet again with a very interesting guest. This time we've gone more the mediumship side and spiritually side. Obviously last week we did a recap show of what we got up to on the Ghost Myths and Legends show. So we had Christopher Chell obviously on last week, and we did a little bit of, what we got up to. So this evening we are joined by Barrie John. Good evening, Barrie.
Good evening, how are you?
I'm fine, thank you. How are you?
I'm really good. I wondered what you were going to describe me as then.
I never describe anyone, really. I just let you obviously describe yourself, really, so...
Oh, God, I'm a man of many talents. That's the thing that scares me, It's brilliant, though. It's great to be on your show, and obviously I met you guys about last November time, wasn't it, if you remember?
Yeah, for Sage Paracon.
Yeah, God, how time flies. We'll soon be coming up to the next one at this rate as well.
Yeah.
Oh, by the way, listeners, I'm here as well.
Yeah, because I always forget Carl.
Yeah, we won't forget Carl in the background. We can hear him. He's there somewhere.
Yeah, as you know, Barrie, as you saw on Sage, I always float around the background doing stuff. But I'm here tonight as well. I'm looking forward. I wasn't on last week's show because I had to do some babysitting duties, but I'm now back, so I'm looking forward to tonight. And we've had long chats at Sage and recently, so looking forward to this. So sorry, Sam, sorry to jump in, but you never introduced me, so I'm telling you off. So you never introduced me.
It's fine.
Who is he, Sam? Do we know him?
I think it's just the guy who comes on every so often, Barrie.
Wow. A little bit like a poltergeist in the background. Wow. I know.
I tell you what, people in the chat room, give me some hell yeahs and high calls.
Brilliant. Well, yeah, no, I'm looking forward to it. And obviously, I hope, like with any show, we're always a little bit different. So, we can bounce off each other and have a bit of fun because I like working with a sense of humour, as you probably know.
Yeah.
So,
obviously, I've read your little bit of info about you.
Yeah.
You've done quite a lot of stuff.
Well, the thing is for us, you're right, because I was working out earlier, and I think now I've been in the market somewhere in the region of nearly 30 years, and that's doing everything from mediumship to the paranormal to doing the TV to doing, you name it, really, loads of radio interviews and stuff. And the one thing I've always wanted to do is just get the word out more for us all, not for me, but for everybody, and I think it's very difficult nowadays because there are so many sort of groups setting up and so many companies setting up that it worries me in a way a little bit, because I want us to be portrayed as professional people and people that know what we're doing. So, it does annoy me a bit when I see all these new groups setting up and then lo and behold that they've caused a problem, or they've run off with money, or they've not paid for events or locations. But as I say, I've been in the market now for getting on for nearly 30 years. And, that was really from being, before 30 years, really, if I go back to when it first started, because just so you all know, I'm 46 on Monday. It'll be my birthday on Monday. But, it started for me when I was really young, and I used to see spirit, I used to feel spirit, I used to feel the presence. And it was silly things, I used to get like hands on my shoulders or, almost be in a warm room and suddenly it was as though I'd just been like put in a freezer and I'd be shivering, absolutely cold as anything. I suppose in a way when you're young, it fears you because you're not quite sure what it's all about or what's happening. And I think it takes a while for you to get to the point where you think, actually, you know what, I know what this is now. I'm comfortable with this. But, unfortunately, life takes over, doesn't it? We all have careers, our career paths take over. And sometimes the things that we want to do almost get pushed to one side, I suppose the word is for me, which is what certainly happened with me and my ability. It almost got put on hold or on stall while I was building a very sort of professional work career. But then, it got to the point where suddenly this what was once a hobby suddenly turns into being my career path again. So, it's fascinating for me because it's opened up so many doorways over the years, as I was mentioning, radio interviews, TV shows, and it's a constant thing, where sometimes, I open up my emails and I think, oh, here we go again. Here's a load of emails about, will you do an interview? Will you do as this? Are you interested in this TV show? Are you interested in this chat show? And I think sometimes, all I want is just a normal life. And I don't think a normal life exists anymore for me.
Just quick shout out to yourself because you are a fellow Aries.
I am a fellow Aries,
and,
yes.
You are a couple. You are your birthday next Monday.
Yes. My
birthday is the following Saturday. I'm 5th of April, so.
Oh, you see.
And the same year as well, 73.
Oh, God, yeah, don't remind me, 46 on Monday, and it seems like yesterday.
It does. You just, all of a sudden, you feel like, yeah, I can do that, and then all of a sudden your body goes, no, you can't. But no, go on.
No, I was just going to say, did you know there's a difference between a March Aries and an April Aries, though?
No, go on.
Oh, God, yeah, there is. April Aries, March Aries are very sort of, can be quite stubborn and bad-tempered.
What's an April Aries then?
Well, April's a little bit easier going. Sometimes an April Aries, you have to give them a little bit of a shove. But the Aries sign anyway is very sort of, I don't want to say aggressive, but very much if they see something, they want it. But you almost end up with this little bit of laziness with an April Aries. You have to give them a bit of a plug every so often or give them a bit of a kick up the butt to make them do things.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
so there you go.
Yeah, that's me. And I'm sure Sam...
it definitely is, Carl, yeah.
I'm sure Sam will basically agree with that. So you've obviously done this since you started and everything. We won't go too much into your earlies, like how you started, because it's out in social, so everybody knows. I want to get to know Barrie himself, not Barrie as in the famous like medium and all that sort of stuff. So you said you've done mediumship, you've done TV, radio, ghost hunting. Out of it, if you could put one thing and put your hand up and say, this is what I really enjoy doing, what out of all the genres that you have done over the 30 odd years of you doing it, what would you say is this is what I love doing?
Do you know that's
not being paid or anything like that?
That's a really, really good one, actually. And do you know what I'd have to say is it'd have to be the stage shows for me. It'd have to be the mediumship demos, because it's getting the message out there to people, that people still care for us. People still, our loved ones still want to talk to us. And I think that's my passion now. It's almost changed from ghost hunting. Not that it doesn't fascinate me. It still fascinates me. But I think the problem for me with ghost hunting is I've got to a point now where I want more in terms of ghost hunting. I look at the physical side of mediumship now, the physical side of getting spirit to materialise, to manifest, to give you direct voice, to give you all this sort of information. But, I've got to say that mediumship is, in terms of like demonstrations, public shows, really, really, it just blows me away, and sometimes the information I come out with, and when somebody will go, oh, gosh, how did you know that? And I'll go, you know what, I don't know. And you know, when it'll stop me in my tracks sometimes, because I think, how can I be so right? Where did that come from? And I think there's that element of trust there. You know, there really is. I mean, people that know me know that, you know, Colin Fry was a really, really good friend of mine for near on 20 years. Me and Colin were friends, you know, and people don't realise that, because, you know, myself and Colin talked many times about doing tours together and going out on tour. And, you know, putting it very bluntly, I always used to say to him, do you know what, Colin? No, I'm not doing it. I'm not doing it because it's not my forte at that time. And my forte was ghost hunting. You know, that's what I enjoyed doing. But it's changed now, Carl. It's changed so much into wanting to help people, you know, wanting to help people. I don't want to say grieve, but helping them through situations, if that makes sense. Because, you know, the worst thing for anybody is when they lose somebody. And people that have been following me over social media know over the last 3 weeks, I lost one of my very beloved dogs, you know, she was 14, you know, I rescued her, rescued them both, actually. And they were part of my life massively, you know. And suddenly to lose one of them was almost worse for me than losing a member of family, because, you know, my dogs are my children to me. You know, I haven't got children, and they were this massive sort of influence in my life. And I think what's difficult for people at times is when you lose somebody, you know, not just animals, but people that you're close to. You know, this isn't just like moving on with your life the next day. Do you know what? They know you so well. You know, they depend on you. They want to be there for you, you know, and this goes for our loved ones as well. You know, they're always there in our lives. And I think it's really hard that when you lose somebody, you've got to be able to understand the pain, the grief. But, you know, jumping back to what I was saying, do you know what? For me, it's helping people. And if that's getting the message out, doing the talk, if that's getting the message out, doing a radio show like now, or even doing a TV show, you know, that's what it's all about for me.
Good. No, I must admit, on a personal level, you helped me through a particularly difficult time back in November at Sage Paracon. People probably are not aware, but a couple of months before Sage Paracon, I lost my father. Quite suddenly, not suddenly, but I lost my father, and then I'd been working through for the previous 4 years. I'd lost my mum back in 2014. So, and it was. I know this is going to sound really, really strange, and it's kind of choking me up a little bit, but I'd been wanting to have a reading from you for the whole weekend. But obviously, I was doing what I was doing when I'm at Sage, setting up the speakers, making sure they were happy and everything like that. And there was this one moment. I think it was on the Sunday, and I was sat upstairs because I was having a break because I knew the lecture was being done, and could see that you didn't have anybody, because it was very, very rare to see nobody at your table. So I saw the opportunity, and I was walking across, and before I even sat down, you hit me with it.
Sorry.
And I was just like, okay. And I've told this story to a few close friends.
Oh.
By the way, MJ, who's listening tonight, she said she loves you and she'll chat to you soon. She's listening.
Oh, she's fab. So, bless her. Yeah, she's fab.
And before I even sat down and you said one thing to me, I hadn't even asked you a question. I literally just walked across the room and you just said one thing to me and I was gone. By the time I sat down, by the time I'd left after the reading, I was in bits.
Sorry.
No. Do not have anything to apologise, because over the years of what I've been doing in that, and I've met a lot of mediums and a lot of psychics and everything like that. The stuff that you told me from being somebody literally just walking across the room, because I never actually said I was coming for a reading, and you just opened up, and like you said to me, I see it, I tell it to you, I tell you it's straight. And you told me stuff that had happened literally the day before. I'd got an email. Nobody knew about that. And you told me about that. And you were spot on with every single thing that you said to me, to the point where I was like, that is enough proof to me.
Yeah.
and helped me through that particular moment in time.
Yeah.
Because, I kind of was struggling. I threw myself into work like everybody, like I'm human, everybody does.
Yeah.
But you gave me some guidance, which I have followed up on, and I have kept following up, and it's working what you told me to do, what you said, the messages you were being told coming through. And wow.
do you know that is really humbling to me, because I always say to people, once some people have had a reading with me, I never hear from them again for 6 months, and people never come back to me and almost give me feedback. They don't tell me things, because a lot of the things what I say to people, I always say to them, take it away with you, take it away, go and have a look for it, look into it, see what you can find. And some people occasionally might email me, they might say, yeah, found it, know what it is, we've found the name, whatever. But other people don't. But then people will come back to me in 6 months' time and go, oh, my God, everything you told me 6 months ago was absolutely spot on. And I think, oh, great, I've done my job. That's the job I'm meant to have done, And like you, let's be honest. Apart from saying hello to you, I didn't know you at all. We'd not had a conversation. Nope. Nobody had told me anything about you. It was literally, this is Carl. Yeah, if you need anything, Carl will sort it out for you. That was it, more or less.
Yep.
So there was no way that I could have had a pre-conversation. And, this is what I think people are always very cautious of, aren't they? I love it when people come to me for readings, and some people will just sit there and go, I'm not telling you anything. I'm not saying a word. I'm not nodding. I'm not agreeing. I'm not saying yes or no. And I always say to them, do you know what? You've got to work with me, because the better you work with me, the better the message will be. And this is the way I always look at it with mediumship, is that it's got to be that two-way flow of information for me, as we're working. But, that what you've just said, do you know what? I am so pleased that helped you through a period of your life when you probably needed it. And that's what I like to do with people. What I don't like is people that come to me almost out of fascination and don't come for a reason, if that makes sense. Because those sort of characters, no matter what information I give them, it will never be right or never be enough. No.
I think with me personally, and I sat down, which you don't know about, and Sam witnessed a little bit of it, but because obviously we were staying in the same little farmhouse across from the thing, and I was talking to MJ about it, because MJ was worried because all she saw was me crying, and I kept on saying it's not tears of sadness, it's tears of joy.
Yeah, good.
But the thing was, I didn't have to give you anything. I didn't have to confirm anything, because you literally just went, this is very strange. I have this. You just went bang, 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 bang. And I was just like, okay.
I always describe it when I work, that I'm almost like a machine gun going off. Some people sit in front of me, and sometimes I have to go, do you want me to slow down? And some people will go, yes, because the amount of information that I churn, it just flows. It just flows, And if I've got a good link with somebody, it's like literally I'll have a conversation on my own with you, if you know what I mean, and I'll just go, right, I'm telling you this, telling you this, telling you this, telling you this. And that's brilliant, But, at the time, you obviously needed it, because I obviously had a very good link with you at that moment.
Oh, absolutely.
And like you say, that week...
Everything you told me, there was not one thing that you said to me that I had to think about. You told me some very personal stuff, particularly the bit about... which there's only two people that knew that, and that was my brother, who was away at the time when my dad passed.
Yeah.
And one other person, which I told. And nobody else knew that I was basically on my own when my dad passed, with him holding his hand. And you just basically said he's so thankful that you were there.
Oh.
And I just went. Like I said, I didn't have to say anything, because I couldn't say anything, because everything that you were telling me at the time was absolutely spot on. And then you went on, and like you said normally you start with the cards and you get a feeling that way. You didn't even touch the cards until the last 5 minutes of the reading. And I'm like, what? I'm like, is this a reading? Because obviously I try not to do it because of what I do, but because I get a little bit skeptical in my old age, but my skepticism went straight out the window. There was no question that you knew information that, particularly on certain subjects, that nobody knew. Literally, it only happened 12 hours before I received an email.
And it's like you say, I mean, that weekend, literally every time I was sat at my table, there was somebody there with me.
Yeah.
You know, I don't think I had many slots. In fact, I think I probably had one where I went off to do a radio interview, and I think that was probably it, and I still had people queuing up.
Yeah, that was with me.
Oh, there you go then. Yeah, there you go then. You know, but it was brilliant, you know, and for me, getting that feedback is so... It's important, but it's not to me, if you know what I mean. I don't want it to sound as though I'm nosy, but it's lovely that I know that I've managed to do something to help you through a situation. And, you know, that's the one message I've always wanted to get out of there, is that, you know, I'm here and I want to help people. You know, I don't do this for self-gain. I don't do this because I want to do it, you know, and it's really strange. I mean, I did an event last night, and sold-out event, you know, brilliant, really pleased. And there was one lady who emailed me. She got a message from me, and she started reaming out what I told her, you know, and then she said, you gave me one name. It was a man's name. Can you remember what it is? And I have to message back, and I have to go, do you know what? I don't remember anything. I do not remember anything once I've cut the link or finished the message, because it's not important to me.
Mm-hmm.
You know, and you know, you've got to remember that the information doesn't come through my my memory bank, if you know what I mean. It comes via another source somewhere where I just have a conversation and I go, right, I'm telling you this. And, you know, I don't want to remember that, because you can imagine how many clients I have through my books and through my door. You know what, if I remembered every conversation, do you know what, my head would explode. It really would.
Yeah, totally.
And like, obviously, with you doing what you do, I think, like, if you do too much, you get tired, don't you? And so you have to have that process if you're switching off, don't you?
You do, yeah. And you know, the hardest thing there, Sam, is I always say it's not working with the spirit world that's hard, it's working with the material world that's hard for me. Because if I get somebody who what I would describe as a hard sitter, so somebody who doesn't want to work with me, doesn't give me information, you know, doesn't say yes or no's, you know, whatever. And when I say give me information, I don't mean feeding it to me. But, you know, if I've got somebody who's quite difficult to work with, that's more draining than giving the message.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, you're right. And I do have to turn off, you know. I mean, it's like straight after an event, you know, some people will come up and talk to me and go, oh, have you got a message for me now? Can you tell me something? I mean, I had one on Monday night, another event that I did, where a girl who'd been there suddenly come up to me and says, oh, I've just brought my friend in from outside. Can you tell her anything? I said, no, I can't. Because, you know, I have to be able to go, right, that's it, I've finished now for the night. Because if I didn't, you know, I'd have all these guys stood around my bed all night, wouldn't they, going, can you tell me this, who's this, and who's that, and to give this message. And, you know, I think, oh, no, I can't be doing with that at night. You know, I need Barrie time, you know, I need my time.
One thing that I've always been fascinated, and you were saying you get the messages, and is... And I've spoken to a couple of other personal friends who are also mediums or spiritual, all that sort of stuff. But I'm always interested how you do you see it? Do you hear it? Is it pictures? Is it somebody sitting on your back of your shoulder like a little whatever telling you something? That's always fascinating with me.
That is a really, really interesting question, because do you know what? Sometimes I have to say, people will say to me, how do you know that? And I go, I don't know. I've got no idea. But then there'll be other times when, depending on the character I'm working with, the spirit, let's call them, that I'm working with, they will show themselves. They will describe themselves. I'll see what they look like. But then sometimes I'll just hear them, or I get a vision, or I get a voice. You know, do you know what I mean? It changes from spirit to spirit with me sometimes. You know, and as much as I'll talk about like describing them, sometimes that could just be a feeling that I've got with a certain spirit, you know. And don't ask me how it works, because do you know what, even to this day I still don't know how it works. I just go with it, you know. And this is where I say to people, you've got to have trust in what we do, because, you know, if you want to do what I do, and, you know, remember, I teach people all the time how to do this. You know, I've got 2 groups running locally now, you know, and I cannot get any more people in it. Do you know what I mean? Every time it's like 20, 30 people at each group. But, you know, I can't make that any bigger because I couldn't manage it, simple as. And people insist that they want me all the time. So I try and stretch myself as much as I can. But, you know, the detail of mediumship, I'll call it, changes for people and changes for spirit. You know, sometimes I could be talking to you and I'll just have a gut feeling and go, don't do it, Carl. You know, I'm telling you not to do it. But on another hand, I might be talking to you and going, right, Carl, I've got this gentleman. He's describing himself. This is what he looks like. This is who he is. You know, so it purely depends on you at the end of the day.
Which you did with me.
Yeah, and it also depends on how they want to come through. I'm
not going to go into the details of it, but you actually said, you've been thinking of this. And I'm like, how does this guy know that I've been thinking? And he went, whatever you're thinking, do the opposite. And I was like, okay.
but you know, this is what's good for me. You know, it's no different to when we do ghost hunting, isn't it? You know, and I love talking to people about ghost hunts because if anybody ever comes on a ghost hunt with me, the one thing I do is make them work. So I don't look at it that I'm the medium all the time and that I'm just going to be the one talking. I go, right, you know, you as the members of public or attendees have to do an element of work now, you know, and I'll put them into a zone, you know, I'll get them nice and chilled out and I go, right, imagine that you're scanning the room. You're looking around this room in your closed eyes. What do you feel? What do you see? What do you sense? You know, do you want to stand somewhere? And very often I'll go to them, right, point to the direction where you feel drawn. And, you know, half of them will approach one direction, half will approach the other. But I think good, you know, that shows me that if you're all going in a similar direction, there's clearly something there. You know, and this is what fascinates me with people is they don't realise that what I do is not a gift; it's an ability that people have. You know, I think there's an element of it where when you're brought up as a child, you're led to believe it. You know, you have to believe it for it to start off. But then I think through life's path, you know, what we're told that we can't do it or we shouldn't do it or we shouldn't have imaginary friends or we shouldn't talk to people who aren't there, we almost then start putting it on the back burner. But what's nice for me is seeing people that come to my workshops and to my courses, seeing them begin to develop, you know, seeing them going through personal circumstances and situations that actually their mediumship starts helping them with it. You know, it starts helping them deal with things through it. And, you know, the one thing I will always say to people, you know, in my life path, I've lost some very, very close family members. You know, I lost my mum 16 years ago now, you know, and I've lost various other people that were close to me. Being a medium does not make it any easier. I have to say that, okay? I still grieve. I still miss them. I still want them back. I still want that physical touch. And it's not the fact that I can't communicate. I can with them. But it's not the same as having somebody sat on the sofa next to you going, have you had a good day today? And you go, no, actually, I haven't. You know, and that's the hard bit. That's the hard bit.
I know Sam is exactly the same as me.
Yeah.
She's had losses as well as me. And we've discussed this on many occasions. And yes, you can have all the confirmations and the signs and everything like this, little white feathers coming down from the sky. But nothing will ever go back to that physical, like you say, sitting on the sofa, how you do conversation. And I think, and I'm sure Sam will agree, that is, it doesn't matter whether you know it's going to happen or it happens very suddenly. Grief is grief, death is death.
It is.
It will affect you in the same way as everybody else, but it's how you handle it. Some people will handle it very well. Some people don't handle it very well. Some people will grieve in their own way. Some people will say they're fine but still grieve.
And you see, the thing is, we have to look at the forms of grieving, because even ending a relationship, there's a form of grieving. Even changing a job, there's a form of grieving for people. You know, you're leaving something that's familiar to you. You know, you're going into, let's call it, unknown territory. And people forget all this. You know, there's various elements to grieving that has to go through those stages. And, you know, ultimately, the final stage of grieving is almost letting go of that emotion. And this is why I always say to people when they come to me for private sittings is, you know, there's a box of tissues there. If you want to cry, you cry. You know, if you want to let it out, you let it out. Because do you know what? I've always got my eyes shut when I work. I never look at people. You know, I'm always like, if I've got my eyes open, I'm looking out of a window. But 99% of the time, I've got my eyes closed. So I don't see what anybody's doing. And to be honest, and I don't mean this disrespectfully, I'm really not interested. All I'm interested in is making sure that message that's trying to come through is delivered in a format that I can deliver it.
And that they understand it as well.
Totally, yeah, absolutely, totally.
So let's just obviously just switch it around a little bit. And look at the obviously. You said you enjoyed the ghost hunting side of it before. You obviously did. So how did you get involved in actually physically ghost hunting?
Well, the interesting thing for me is, going back, and I'm going back now into probably the early 90s. It was a bit of fun for me, to be honest. You know, me and a few friends used to go off to some old mills and things near where we used to live, and we'd go inside and we'd pretend to spook each other, and then something would happen, or you'd hear something being thrown, or, you know, certain things would happen, and you'd go, who did that? And they go, it weren't me. No, it weren't me. I didn't do it either. No, and they didn't do it either. And then you go, right, run. Do you know what I mean? And it was almost like, get out of the room as fast as you can. But you know, it started out literally as a bit of fun. That was it, you know, and I loved it. You know, I loved going into unknown buildings and going, right, never been in here before. What do we feel? What do we sense? You know, I remember doing some really, really well-known places around Nottingham, probably, when would it be now? Probably the early sort of 2002, 2003, where a friend of mine, he bought a lot of old buildings to renovate, places like Clifton Hall, Bunny Hall, Collick Hall. And they were fantastic locations. But you see, I used to get into them in the raw state before anything had been done to them. So when they were basically what I call a naked building. And that was amazing for me. You know, I remember doing Clifton Hall, and we were hearing voices. We were hearing noises up staircases when there was only 2 or 3 of us in the whole house. You know, and it was like, where did that come from? You know, what was that about? And, you know, the one thing I've always maintained in any ghost hunt I've done is, you know what, spirit are not there to harm us in any way. You know, they're there to prove that they exist or that they continue in life. And I think people nowadays, they get too hung up on demonology, demons, you know, evil. Oh, everything that's coming through is evil all the time. You know, I saw something recently, I think it was on YouTube, about somebody almost finding the gates of hell or the hole to hell or something, and I'm thinking, oh, really? Come on, you know. and don't get me wrong, I mean, I'm open to ideas, you know, I'm open to suggestions, I really am. But, you know, let's be realistic about this. You know what, if you're in an old building and people have suffered there and they've passed over there, do you know what, it's not going to be a nice feeling. But those people aren't evil. Those people aren't, you know, they're not demons, for goodness sake. You know, the people that have been through traumatic circumstances, you know, and this is the thing we must all remember is, you know, those characters at one time had emotions, had feelings, you know, they were a living soul. And, you know, what they must have gone through must have been horrendous to make them the person that they were in the end, or, you know, what happened to them in the end. And we all know things like that, you know, things like battlefields, you know, lovely old castles that look very magnificent now. But, you know, in the day, there were probably horrible places to be, horrible places to you know, you were always fighting or fighting your corner or standing your ground in some way, you know. Mm-hmm. And this is how life's changed so much over the years. But, you know, at the last count, I think it was something like nearly 5,000 ghost hunts I've done, you know, for public. Wow. You know, that doesn't include private things. That doesn't include the bits that I've done for fun for people, you know, and you know, I do a lot of work for charity nowadays, as people know, you know, and I do that all because it's my way of giving back. You know, it's my way of going, come on, let's do something. Let's make this work for all of us now. You know, I support many charities on my doorstep, you know, anything from, there's a charity called Hug that I support called Help Us Grieve, anything like the Terence Higgins Trust, LGBT, autism, you know, you name it, and I'll support it. You know, even dementia, Alzheimer's, anything like this. You know, Dogs Trust. You know, I think there's loads of good charities out there, and this is what frustrates me at times. People don't see the things that we do behind the scenes to help people move on in life. You know, I'm working with a local charity that's literally probably a mile from my doorstep. And it's for people that are going through depression, through difficult circumstances, and basically what they've done is set up some gardens for them where they go and do a little bit of gardening, they can go and have a cup of tea, go and have a chat, go and have a bit of cake. And, I very often turn up there and I go, come on then, let's go and do something. And it's not for me to get anything back. It's actually to go to people, come on, let's do something. Let's make this work for you, And I think that's what life should be about now. It's not all about take. It's actually about give.
I think there's also, when you exactly what you've just mentioned, I think there's sometimes there's you do all this stuff in private. Yeah. You basically do it because you want to do it. You want to put something back and you want to help. Yeah. But I do get a little bit, particularly on social media, and I know I've discussed this with other people. It's the ones that are, I'm doing this.
Yeah.
And it's just like, instead it's taking a spotlight off the charity and trying to put it back on it. And which is that whole 15 minutes of fame routine and everything like that when it comes to charity work. If you do it, you do it. People know about it. If you're doing something which you're doing like an event and stuff like that, you get promoted, blah, blah. But at the end of
course you do.
It's about the charity, it's about the group, whatever.
Yeah.
And so I think that's what you've said is like, you'll just turn up and say, right, let's go and have a bit of cake. Let's go and have a...
Totally. Absolutely. People are always astonished by me because when they meet me, they'll go, aren't you really friendly? Aren't you pleasant? And I go, what do you think I am? And it's almost because you've been on TV, because you've been on radio a lot, people see you as a voice or as an individual, and they go, I'm exactly the same as you. I still have my life's problems. My life isn't rosy. And people forget this, but I think it's really important, jumping back on what you were just saying, that we promote the charity. We promote the work that they do and what they're trying to achieve. I'll attend things like the local soup kitchen, and, I'll go and help hand out meals or whatever, and I'm not bothered. And I don't go as Barrie John. I go as me. I go as me. And these are the things that I do behind the scenes to show people that actually, there's genuine people out there that really, really do care.
Absolutely, and you're totally right. I believe Sam's got a question for you.
Yes, we have a question for you, Barrie, from the lovely MJ.
Oh.
She says, firstly, I like my new guide as he swears a lot and has a wicked sense of humour, but I need to know about these numbers. For the last week, I have seen 11-11, 12-12, 13-13, 14-14, 15-15, 16-16, 18-18, 19-19, 20-20, and now 21-21. On the 21st, this is all day and every day this week.
Do you know, that's really good because isn't it funny how certain times I'll always look at the clock and it'll be 11:11. And the first thing I do is I go, right, okay, that's a message for me because it's always very repetitious. It's always something that carries on. And the first thing I always say to people is if you're getting that, something repetitious, put it into the computer and call up your angel numbers and see what it says, because it's really important that when you look at these, you think, actually, this is something really significant. And I would say this is something significant for MJ because I love the way she said about a guide, by the way, that's swearing a lot, because I think it suits her, but don't tell her that, okay? She'll probably text me in a minute. But I think it's really significant that when we're getting things that are very repetitious or things that repeat themselves, we start looking into it, because I don't class things as coincidence. I don't class it that suddenly you've been thinking about a friend and suddenly the phone rings and I think, that's really spooky, that. There's something there. It's almost like you've got an element of telepathy going on, or an element of some sort of connection, whatever you want to call it, okay? And I think I would certainly start investigating those numbers and putting them in and going, right, what does it mean? What's it all about? I'm interested to see what's going to come next, though, if it keeps changing, because I think, well, you see, I know MJ, and obviously, I don't want to give her a private reading, but, I know things are going to change for her very soon, and this is my gut feeling. It's not what I know, okay? Because MJ strived and strived and strived, exactly like I do, like we all do, to do everything for everybody else. And I want to go, do you know what? Your break's coming, and I mean that in a really good way. And I think this is almost like stepping her up to the big break happening, I want to say to her. And I know I'm going to end up giving her a private reading because I can feel it now. I know the month of June is very good to her, and I know June holds either cameras or some sort of filming element. But I also see an element of either connections to old buildings abroad or old property abroad. And for some reason, as I say that, I almost get like an old wooden house with like a veranda around the front. And I don't know why I'm seeing this, and I've got no idea, okay? But this is what I'm seeing for MJ. I think MJ's heading for a really, really good break very soon, and she deserves it. She's a fantastic character, and I love her to bits.
And I would second that.
She says, I need to be shouted at, and usually there needs to be swear words, as I never listen. And then she's put what in capital letters, and then shut up in capital letters.
She kills me. She absolutely kills me. Honestly, I love her to bits because she's just balmy. She's balmy in a lovely way, and she knows that.
Yeah. And MJ's one of my personal friends and Sam's friends. Everybody on the Parasearch network, we just love MJ to bits.
Totally. So I think it's a change coming. But anything like that, where you get things that reoccur, things that keep happening. Do you know what? For goodness sake, keep a log of it. Look at it. Does it happen at certain times of the day? Is it something does something happen straight away after it? I'll go back to what I said. I don't believe things are just coincidence at times. I think there's something there that you've got to take heed of or take notice of.
Mm. Would you say the same thing about dreams as well, Barrie?
Well, there's a lot of explanations about dreams, isn't there? Because there's certain elements when something happens, it could depict an end of a situation. It could depict the start of a situation. It might be talking about your relationship. So you'd have to look at each one on its own merits. But I think there's certainly an element of it. I mean, I have to be honest with you. I never remember hardly any of my dreams, and I know I must have them, but I hardly remember any of them. When I go to sleep, I'm like my head hits the pillow and that's it. I pass out. But there's only two things that can wake me up. One of them is if somebody calls my name. And the other one is if I hear one of my my other dog moving around now, but when I used to hear them both, and it's like almost like an instant reaction. You just wake up and you go, right, what was that? Yeah. But, I've slept through thunderstorms. I've slept through blooming earth tremors, you name it. I remember a few months ago we had an earth tremor around here, and all the neighbours woke up and were messaging me in the night going, did you hear it? And I'm thinking... And I got it in the morning. What did you hear? What? I was in bed. And I'm solid as a rock when I sleep. That's what I do. But I think it's really important that if you get a repetitive dream, you've got to have it analysed, or you've got to look at it and go, right, what does that mean?
Mm-hmm. You're one of the lucky ones who can get sleep pretty easily then.
Yeah,
sometimes.
I agree with that.
Yeah, sometimes. I mean, sometimes with me, I'm terrible because when I go to bed at night, I always think I'll just do that last email or I'll just reply to that last text message. And then lo and behold, at 1 o'clock in the morning, I'm still replying to messages. So I always say to people, the best time to get hold of me is late at night because really that's the time when I'm slowly starting to switch off. Normally after about 8 o'clock, I'm starting to switch off and become me again.
Mm. 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 Which I think because of the industry we all work in, I think that's normally the time when everybody starts winding down and is more themselves, as you say. So.
Yeah, it is. And I mean, social media nowadays doesn't help us because, very often I get lots of messages from people on a weekly basis or go, oh, can you just give me a quick reading? Oh, can you just tell me what you pick up from this? Can you just look at this picture and tell me what you see? And sometimes, I remember there was one lady messaging me on Christmas Day. And I had to physically say to her, look, I'm not being funny. It's Christmas Day. I'm having a day off. I do have a life, I want a life other than what I do. And some people just don't give in. It's a bit like they push. And I think you have to remember, that, I just don't sit there on the end of my computer waiting for the next message to come in or waiting for the next text. It's got to get to that point where you go, right, I'm me now. I'm back in my life now. I want to have my dinner or have a cup of tea or whatever it is.
So talking about that whole switch off part of it. So what do you do to get yourself away from absolutely everything, switch off, and become yourself? What do you do away from the ghost hunting, away from readings, away from any mediumship or anything? How do you literally unwind? Because I know what I do. I go on the golf course, or I go and see friends, etc. And I know Sam does the way she does hers. I'm just interested to let.
I mean, for me, I mean, I live in a beautiful part of the countryside. I mean, I live in the middle of Sherwood Forest. If I take a 5-minute walk over the fields, I'm in the middle of the trees. And I'm down by the fishing lakes. There's a little stream, there's a little bridge, and very often I'll stand on the bridge. And sometimes I think, I'm not taking the phone with me, because I think nowadays mobiles and technology rule our lives too much, and I'm very, I'll put my hand up to that, I'll own up to that, because I certainly let mine rule my life a little bit too much. And I think sometimes you've just got to get to that point where you put it down, you leave it upstairs. Sometimes I'll leave it in the office, whatever, and I'll just leave it on charge. And people go, "Oh, we're trying to ring you," and I go, "Yeah, I'm having a break. I'm watching TV, I'm watching a movie," because technology is terrible nowadays for this. It's almost like it takes over our life. And for me, it'd be like going for a walk, it'd be going for a bike ride, going for a bit of a jog or run, or even to the point going to the gym, and just switching off from it. I'm a bit of a bargain hunter. I love my bargains, and I love going around sort of shops and having a bit of a trundle round and just leaving the phone in the car and thinking, do you know what? This is 5 minutes of me now. This is me doing what I want to do. And social life, I've got some amazing friends in my life, people that mean a lot to me who, will go, right, are you popping over for a coffee? Yeah, come and have a coffee and a bit of cake or whatever. And I think that's what life should be about. It's all well and good that, people see me as Barrie John the medium or the paranormal investigator or whatever. But, I also have a life. I also have times when I want to walk my dog across the field or go and wash my car or nip to Asda or something, and even that's hard for me, because I'll go to our local Asda. I can guarantee that somebody will see me who's seen me on TV or been to me for a reading, and they come up talking to me, and I think I haven't got the faintest who you are, but I'm very pleasant, aren't I? So I talk to people, but you've got to be able to switch off. You really have, and I love nothing better than sitting in the garden on a nice summer's day, a nice glass of wine, under the umbrella, the sun's coming down, and you just think, you know what, this is what life's about.
Absolutely. I think my inner sanctum is, because I do a hell of a lot of it, and that's driving. Because once I get in the car, yes, my sat nav might be on or whatever, but I won't do social media or anything like that, because obviously I'm driving. It comes through on the car, but I turn it off if I'm doing long journeys, because I don't want to be distracted about anything else, because I want to concentrate. So that's my inner getting away from, as they say, social media, is getting in the car. And I do a lot of driving during the week, but also when I'm going off to, like tomorrow, I'm driving up to Northampton. That's going to be my time for 2.5 hours or 3 hours, whatever. No social media. And I think everybody needs that sort of point in your life where you get away from it. Because I know people which what's the last thing you do before you go to sleep? I check my phone. What's the first thing you do when you get up? You check your phone. Yeah, you do. And you get into a routine, you get into a pattern, don't you?
Yeah, you do. And I'm the same as you. I spend so much time in the car on the road that actually one of my getaways is my music. And I have a massive variety of music in the car. I always have had. I've got it on my phone, I've got it in CDs, I've got it on the iPod in the car. I've always got music with me. And even when I'm at home, I'm not a major TV buff. I'm more of I'll put the radio on, or I'll put a CD on, or I'll put some music on.
What do you like to listen to, Barrie?
Anything music-wise. It purely depends on my mood. Anything from classical pianists, anything through to like musicals, you name it, anything up to modern day. I love all kinds of music. It purely depends on what mood I'm in at the time, and how I'm feeling with it, really.
Which I think the whole thing about music is everybody listens to music for a certain reason. I'm exactly the same. I'll listen to certain genres of music depending on my moods.
Totally. And music for me is my way of releasing. It helps me let go of things. And people can always tell with me, because sometimes, on my Facebook page, I'll be laid in bed at night or in the office, and I think, right, I like that track. I'm going to put it on my Facebook wall. I'm going to put that one on my Facebook wall as well. And sometimes people go, "Oh, you all right? You okay?" And I go, "Yeah, I'm fine. Why? I'm just sharing music that I like."
Yes, been there. It's like you listen to a song and you think, "Right, I'm going to share that," and then you're saying, "Are you okay? What's wrong?" Because you listen to maybe like a slightly sad song, or you're listening to like this, that, and that. And no, I'm just listening to music.
Yeah, you see, I'm a classic.
Very key issue, I think.
Yeah, I'm a classic old movie fan. I love some of the really old movies. I was brought up with things like the old Dracula movies and Frankenstein movies and, Peter Sellers and all these sort of films, really old classics, and stuff like that. Christopher Lee and Peter Cushing and all this, and people like that for me are tremendous. One of my greatest films is Blithe Spirit, if you've never seen it, with old Margaret Rutherford. And, it's a corking film. I love it because it's all about connection to the spirit world. She's pretending to be a medium, and then suddenly it starts happening for her and she can connect. And I love the old movies. I love silly movies as well. I've got a real wicked sense of humour with things. And for me, that's my way of releasing,
Yeah. Yeah,
Kerry, Kerry says she loves that film, Barrie.
Blithe Spirit.
Yeah.
Oh, it's brilliant, absolutely brilliant. Love it to bits.
Yeah, because people say to me, like, "What's my favourite film?" And my favourite film of all time, and it's not a film that's been out there recently, is Bullet.
Yeah,
Steve McQueen. Yeah. I've always had this fascination with the car he drives. One of the most amazing, apart from the French Connection car chase, has probably one of the best car chases in movies.
Yeah.
It's
funny, isn't it, how some of the old movies, they still last. I mean, I remember movies like The Goonies when I was growing up, and I still watch it to this day because to me that's like a real feel-good movie.
I like watching the old Ealing comedies. Like the Pimlico Crew and stuff like that. You've got all those amazing. And there's one of the films, I can't remember. It's where they're police officers. There's three of them. There's quite an old actor, and they're living in this like lighthouse in Old Town, and they used to put the light up for the smugglers, but they didn't realise they were putting the light up for the smugglers. But it was an Ealing comedy. And you just turn it on and you just sit back and you just enjoy the film. You forget about your troubles and you just get into it. And I think that's what music, films is probably one of the best escapes around, because you can just chill out,
totally,
everything and go.
Yeah. Totally, and I mean, I have a huge passion for local history. I love local history, and I'm one of the tour guides up at Newstead Abbey now, which is the home of Lord Byron, where Byron the poet lived. And I love the stories that are connected to it.
Barrie, wasn't Newstead Abbey, didn't they film Batman there?
No, they filmed that at Woollerton Hall, which is a similar link to Newstead. It's the same. It's the same sort of county that owns it. But yeah, that was at Woollerton Hall. Whereas Newstead was the home of Lord Byron, and I've got family connections there, which is tremendous. Because for me, it's really weird, because my 5 times great grandfather was manservant to Lord Byron and to the Byron family for 70 years. And so for me, walking around that building is quite sort of eerie. It's almost like, the only way I can describe it, I'm following in his footsteps as you walk around the building, and there's even his portrait that hangs in the library that when I'm up there, every morning I'll go in and go, "You all right? Are you okay?" Straighten his picture and make sure he's still there, and I love it. I love things like that. As I've got older, spooky things don't scare me anymore, not like what they used to do when I was younger.
No, I totally agree, and I think Sam will agree with that as well.
Yeah,
you get to a point where you just think your life changes. You get to a point where you start thinking, I tell you what, because when you were young, you didn't want to drink a glass of red wine, or you didn't want to drink a glass of white wine. But now I get to a point where I'm just thinking, yes, I only drink one type of drink, but there's nothing better in the sunshine with your friends, chewing the fat over anything and everything.
Yeah.
And a nice glass of cold glass of white wine or a nice glass of red and stuff like that. But your priorities change as a human being.
They do. Do you know what, Carl? I totally agree with that. I think as we get older and we experience life, let me call it that, I think you just learn that, things that we used to get worked up about and annoyed about aren't important anymore. There's other issues that are more important. And, my main issue is to enjoy life. It really is. I can't be doing with drama. I can't be doing with people on social media when everything has to be a drama in their life. And, people very often say to me, oh, you're always positive on social media. And I think if only you knew behind the scenes sometimes what I've been going through or what I've gone through. And I never try to portray anything as, down in the dumps. I always think, come on, let's keep everybody positive. Let's keep going with it, And so many people, I wish that they would learn the same, and it's this old thing, isn't it? Never wash your dirty laundry in public, because I don't want people knowing all my business behind the scenes.
No, exactly. You've got to have some, as I described, you've got to have some mystery.
Oh, I've got lots of mystery.
You can't live your life on social media. You can't be, because at the end of the day, you if you do live your life on social media, when people meet you for the first time, they're going to go, "Hang on, you're not like what I thought you'd be."
Very true.
That's the problem you got. Is if people like this, that, and the other on social media, and they live that thing. They show their food, they show this, that, and the other, and then all of a sudden they meet somebody for the first time, and people go, "Hang on."
It is. I mean, it's like me. I mean, I'm psyching up at the moment because I've got another event tomorrow night. On Saturday, I'm driving over to Evesham for the Spirit Fest at Evesham for all day. Then I'm driving back, and then on Sunday I'm driving right over the other side of the country to King's Lynn for another well-being, another mind, body, and spirit well-being event at King's Lynn, and then I'm driving all the way back home. So this weekend for me and tomorrow night will probably end up being like 600 and odd miles, if not more.
But as we said, you're going to have a lot of time in the car where you can switch off.
Totally,
get yourself sorted. Once you're there, you can then go into the correct move.
Totally.
I think that's...
And for me, it's all about offering that service to people, and making sure that people are okay.
Absolutely. And I think that's the thing that we started with. And I know I can't believe the hour's running up, but I think we're going to end up on it. Helping people, end with helping people.
Definitely.
Okay. Sam, over to you.
So, Barry, do you have anything coming up? Obviously, you've got, you've got loads.
Honestly, Sam, my diary has gone manic. Over these last few weeks and months, it has gone manic. I mean, the other week, about 3 weeks ago, we booked in 40 events in 1 week for this year, and that's on top of everything else that I've got. So, I mean, we've got, God, what have I got coming up? We've got Italy coming up later this year. I've got Germany coming up this year. I've got Spain coming up this year. I've got all this on top of everything that I'm doing in this country, first of all, which is obviously my priority. I'm just discussing some weekend retreats, spa weekend retreats, which will be a spiritual weekend. But, there's loads of stuff, events all over the country at the moment, and to be honest, I'm concentrating more on what I call the intimate events at the moment, where it's smaller groups, because it's all great doing the big sort of theatres and everything. But, I want it to be more personal for people. So I've started to do more of those now. Yeah. And there'll be more of them coming up, so a lot more sort of 50 odd people to 100. And that's a nice number for me to work with, because what people don't realise is when I do an event, do you know what? You can't get round everybody. It's impossible. And if you've got a full theatre, it's really quite hard to work with. So, up to 100 is enough.
Barry, it must be like if you've got a theatre, say, the Derngate in Northampton, that's 2,000 plus people.
It's manic.
If you're standing there and you're getting messages, it must be like somebody is standing in front of Heathrow Airport and every single radio tower just being thrown.
Totally, absolutely, totally, and that's why as much as I enjoy it, I don't enjoy it because I want to make sure everybody gets an element of a message of some kind, you know. And if that's, you know, me giving a bit of either philosophy or a talk, or, you know, they pick up on what somebody else has got and they think, you know what, actually that makes sense. I understand that now. And I always say to people when I'm doing a demonstration, remember, spirit will go where they need to go. They'll go to the people that need it first. You know, and some people don't understand that. And this is where you end up with the problems when you're doing big theatres, where people will come up to you afterwards and go, you didn't get me, but can you just give me a message now? And you go, no, sorry, I can't. I've linked off now. You know, I broke the link. Because otherwise, you know, even 100 people, well, let's be honest, even 50 people is too much for me to do. You know, you can never do it. I mean, on a normal demonstration, you will find on roughly a 2-hour demonstration, I'll probably end up getting maybe somewhere in the region of maybe 15 people, but then I always do a few little games afterwards. So maybe 20 people, something like that. But you won't get many more because you haven't got the time.
Absolutely.
You know, and you're trying quick to give a message.
Yeah, and I know what you like after you do the readings. You like chocolate.
I love chocolate, yes. I'm a chocoholic, I'm afraid. In fact, being honest, just before you rang me, I've just had a double-decker.
Oh, you can't beat a good double-decker.
Yeah, double-decker is one of my favourites. The only one that tops a double-decker for me is a Boost bar.
Oh, I haven't had Boost bar. I might have smelled the Lime bar. I quite like.
Oh yeah, but you see, I remember Lime bars when they were twice as big. Unless it's the fact that I was a lot younger and they just looked a lot bigger. People
say that about the wagon wheel.
Yeah,
the wagon wheel used to be the size of your head. Now it's tiny. Maybe it's just because we're the same age, Barry. Well, personally, I'm just going to quickly just wrap it up, and I'm going to pass it over to Sam.
Right.
Personally, because obviously this hour's flown by, we could talk for hours.
Yeah.
And I promise to everybody listening, we're going to get Barry on as quickly as our schedules can meet. When Barry's schedule can get, we'll get him back on this conversation on, because I personally think it's been amazing. I love Barry to bits because of what he's done for me personally, and obviously as a friend, and working with him at Sage Paracon and everything like that. It's been amazing. So I just want to personally say thank you, Barry.
My pleasure. Thank you very much, Carl.
No problem. And listeners, we'll post the links. We'll post everything on the social sites for where you can get hold of, where you can see Barry, you get involved in with Barry's. We'll post those on there. And I promise we'll get him back on soon. I'm going to pass you over to Sam. I'm going to say thank you very much, and I will catch you next week. Over to you, Sam.
Yeah. Just a quick one, Barry. You are having a stall at Sage Paracon again, aren't you?
I will be there, yes, but I might only be there for one day, and I'm not sure which day it is yet. But yes, I will be there.
Jay put in the chat room saying you'll be there this year with a stall.
I will, yeah. We've already talked about it, but unfortunately I've got another event on that weekend as well. So I'm going to do one day at one event, one day at Sage. So I will be there. Don't worry, guys. I will be there.
With that said, Barry, if you'd like to say good night to everybody.
I will. Good night, everybody, and thank you so much, and have a great time.
And it's a good night from me, everybody.
And it's a good night from me.
Thank you for listening. Don't forget to join us for more shows throughout the week. Find us on Facebook, Twitter, and the World Wide Web to keep up to date with all the shows right here on Parasearch Radio.